Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Pivot Poll. Yay! It's Friday night, 9 o'clock. You know what time it is. So thank you for joining us again for another exciting Pivot Poll. Hope you all had a great week. It's Friday, so we get a chance to talk and relate and see who possibly needs to pivot every now and then. I'm Heather, and this is Andretta, and we want to welcome you to today's session. So today we are going to talk about introverts and extroverts, and introverts and extroverts in friendships. So if anybody is on, because I can't see right now, but we put out a little question earlier this week. Who do you think is an introvert and who do you think is an extrovert? Do you think I am an introvert and Andretta is an extrovert, or vice versa? So if anybody's out there, take a wild guess. Who do you think is an introvert and who's an extrovert? I'm waiting. If anybody's out there, I can't see.
They're never going to be able to guess. They're not going to be able to guess.
You don't think so?
I know they won't.
Well, we'll give it a minute and see if anybody can guess who is the introvert and who is an extrovert. We'll see if anybody has said. So we'll come back to it because maybe we'll get the answer at the end of this. Oh, Ruth says that I'm the introvert. Okay, Ruth. Okay. Thank you for chiming in, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah's to the rescue. Here we go, the Delta Nation.
Sarah's to the rescue. Yes. So tonight we wanted to just talk about and give some context to introverts and extroverts and the misnomers about introverts and extroverts, and then how we as friends fluctuate between or within these two. So I wanted to read something. I really found this to be very interesting when we were doing some research on this. So I've heard the term introvert and extrovert, but I did not know that there are 4 types of introverts. So there's a social introvert, and they most closely resemble the common understanding of introversion. They prefer to be alone or socialize with small groups instead of large ones. However, they are not shy and don't feel anxious around other people. Then we've got thinking introverts. Okay. They don't share their aversion to social events, but they tend to get lost in their own thoughts. They're introspective, thoughtful, and self-reflective. Then we have the third type, which is the anxious introvert. They seek out solitude because they tend to feel awkward or self-conscious around other people. And this anxiety doesn't go away when they're alone. They tend to ruminate on things that might have or could have gone wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the fourth one is a restrained introvert. They think before they act. They move at a slightly slower pace, making sure every action is intentional and thought through. Wow. So that was really interesting to me. I did not know.
Yeah, neither did I. I was not aware that there were that many versions, or I guess that's a spectrum of introverts. Then I wasn't aware of that either.
Yes. So then I moved on to the extroverts. So extroverts, the definition is that they feel energized being around a lot of people. They don't mind being the center of attention. However, spending too much time alone can drain them mentally. And just like introversion, there are different levels. I didn't know that. So there are 3. There's the agentic extrovert, and they're the go-getters. They are assertive, persistent, and driven by success. They feel comfortable being in the limelight and take leadership positions when opportunities arise. Then there's the affiliative extrovert. And they are social butterflies. They are friendly and warm and can easily break the ice with new people. Close relationships mean a lot to them, and they tend to have very large groups of friends around them. And then the third one is the ambiverts. Ambiverts are right in the middle, and they actually make up the majority of the population.
Wow.
Yep. Ambiverts are socially comfortable and interactive, yet value alone time. They don't function well in either direction for too long. So they can't be left or can't be right for too long. Balance is key for ambiverts, and their preference for introversion or extroversion can change depending on the situation. So I did not know that. That was really, really interesting to find out when I was doing this research about this topic, because you always hear, oh, someone is an introvert or someone is an extrovert, but they can actually fall within a few spectrums.
Right, absolutely. I think that's the only thing I've ever heard. I wasn't aware until today, as we were kind of chatting a little bit. I didn't get all of them, but chatting a little bit about it, that you can be several different types of either. Which is probably understandable, because no two people are exactly the same. And so hearing that there is a spectrum for introversion and extroversion, that makes a lot of sense. And so that was definitely informative today, because I was not aware of that either.
Yeah. So within introversion and extroversion, there are, as in life, there are some misnomers and some things that we think and we assign to people and individuals, and when we look at these introverts and extroverts. So, Andrea, what's been your thought on this?
Well, first, let me say this. One person voted that you were the introvert, and we don't have any other comments on that. But I think we need to reveal which one of us is the introvert and which one of us is the extrovert. So will the extrovert please raise your hand? Yeah, that's Heather.
I'm actually an extrovert.
Heather is the extrovert in our relationship. And I don't think that people believe that about us.
No.
A lot. Especially if they've been watching this show, they're probably like, "Oh, the devil is a liar." That's definitely the loud one. That one over there. Yeah, she's definitely an extrovert. Right. But no, Heather is the definitely the what do we have now? This new info. You are the third introvert. Well, she's saying that you're the third extrovert. Okay, with that new information, definitely. Do you agree with that, Heather? Does Ruth have you pegged there?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And then that's been my experience, I think, of you, Heather, is that you're kind of falling in the middle. I thought, as far as my introversion, I'm definitely an introvert. I think I kind of felt like I was in the category, as I was listening to you read this, I'm like, I think I must be the anxious introvert, because I am certainly been that person. And look, Ruth said she's also the third extrovert, so you have company.
Yay.
But I felt like I was the anxious introvert. I'm definitely an introvert. I've been more introverted my whole life, but I do, in hearing the spectrum of introversion, extroversion, I was glad to hear that, because I've always felt like it was situational. It could be situational, like depending on if I was with family or if I was with close friends, if I was at church, if I was among people I did not know, if I was at work. And so I've always kind of displayed different sides of my introversion, extroversion, depending upon where I was. Yeah. But even in the midst of that, predominantly, I know myself to be an introvert. And you were talking about misconceptions. And for me, I think it's important to talk about misconceptions as we're talking about the kind of introversion, extroversion, as far as, I'm concerned, because for one of the big things that I have experienced as being an introvert is that people think you don't like people. That's a misconception. And if you are introverted on here, or you have been, considered a person who's shy or introverted, and all introverted people are not shy. Some people are shy and some people are not. But if you are an introvert, you may have heard people, make comments like you don't like people, or you don't like to be around people. And for me, that couldn't be further from the truth. I love people. I love communication. Like, I like to talk. Of the two of us, I talk the most.
Yes.
So someone said, Lord, spelling extrovert, extrovert, extrovert. I feel you. I did the same. I had to double check mine several times, Ruth. I feel you.
To Ruth's credit, Ruth is in Okinawa, so it could be the time change that is time difference, Ruth. So
in her defense, right?
In her defense, yes.
She says, slowly raising hands since 2020. I realize I don't like people. and she's the extrovert, right? So are the extroverts that don't like the people? It's the extroverts that don't like the people, then, right? But I've heard people say that, and I just and I've had I think you and I have had some really deep kind of conversations about perceptions, and perceptions have really been huge to me, because I know there are people who have different levels of perception. They think, okay, well, she doesn't like to be around people, or she doesn't like, groups, or she doesn't like, but that's not the truth. I love groups. It just takes me a minute to kind of warm up. I do feel anxious around large groups of people. And so it's not that I don't like people, it's that I tend to take a moment or few, and sometimes it's starting over every time. And that's the thing. That's the thing about my introversion, is that, some people, once they go into a situation, they're anxious to begin with. And then after they've been there for a while, they're like, fine. But it's, for me, every time starting that situation is like the first time for me. So I tend to feel a level of anxiety, which, I'm growing. And I have grown a lot. I think, Heather, can you applaud me a little taste on this?
You have. Okay. You have.
I have grown a lot in that way, but it's not that we don't like people. It's just I get a strong sense of peace and a strong sense of stability, just kind of being by myself, or being with a very, very, very intimate group of people that I know very well and feel comfortable with. And so that has always been a misconception, one of the misconceptions, that I think you have to be careful, in dealing with people who are self-proclaimed introverts. It's not that we don't like people. It's not that we don't love people. It's just that a lot of times we just find a lot more stability and peace, especially as an anxious introvert. And I don't want to put in the words on myself, but having in the past been an anxious introvert, I definitely don't like the process that I have to go into going into things. So that would be kind of one of mine. And what's one of yours, Heather, of misconceptions?
I think a misconception for extroverts is that we are partiers, or we're gatherers, and that's all we like to do. And it's go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. And as I read, there are some people who are go-getters, and that's, what they do. But all extroverts aren't like that. I'm not like that. I get along with people. I can go into any situation, and there could be strangers everywhere, and I can get in, I can talk, I feel comfortable doing that. But for me also, I like my own time. Yeah. So even though I get fuel and I get energy from other people, the misconception that that's all I need, or that's, I got to have all of that. Right. That's a misconception. So it just depends on, I think, after I've read this, where you fall on on that spectrum.
I think I had that of you, though. I had that misconception about you because Heather and I, we go to the same church. We sing on the same praise team. And I, for whatever reason, felt like Heather, and I told her, I said, I just felt like you were just hanging out, I don't want to use the word partying up in the house of God. I felt like you were just going from gathering to gathering. I really felt that way because her personality seemed so, and I just assumed that that's the person that she was. But when I got to know her, I really, really saw what a deep misconception that was. It wasn't that she felt like she had to be among the crowds all the time, but she absolutely can move and shake in a crowd, like no problem. When she and Ruth will probably appreciate this. When she gets with her, I just told Heather, don't call me. When she's with her Delta family, so that's so ugly. Heather is like, I'm normally the one who's bringing the volume if I'm comfortable in a room. Heather is, oh my God, they're talking, they're laughing, they're going. And I'm thinking, my God, I don't even know this woman.
Thing.
She said, that's a sorority thing. I'm like, it is, and I get it. And I was just like, oh my God, but you can see the energy. That's really what I'm speaking to, is the energy level. You're taking on that energy, and she's processing that energy, and she's entering into the flow of the energy, and she's excited and going. And I'm like, whoa, too much energy for me. I need you to calm down. I said, Heather, just don't. She was, I think you were on a weekend at like Simpsonwood, maybe. I forgot where you were. Yes. And all your ladies were there, and she called just to say hey, and all I heard was, hey, Andretta. And I'm like, oh no, too much. I said, just call me when you come back home from this weekend, because that's the level of energy that she's able to operate. But for me, as an introvert, that kind of volume and movement and energy level, at some point, I'm gonna get in a corner somewhere, and I'm probably not gonna say very much. No. I can remember the first retreat that the women went on at the church.
Yes, Lord. Have you seen the commercials that you can see where the cat, or on TikTok or these social medias where you see the cat starting out here or here, and then you see the cat starting out here and then back here, and then they're gone. Mm-hmm. Or the reverse, that you see the cat here and then it gets closer and it gets closer. I promise y'all, we were in this room. There had to be, how many people? 30?
It was more than 30. Yeah. We had a lot of women at that first retreat.
There were a lot of women.
It was packed in that room. That's what I remember. And look, my introversion may be counting that room differently than your extroversion, but I felt like it was 2,000 women stuffed up in a room, and it was too many women for me. I mean, I just felt like this room was closing in on me at that point.
Yes. And I think everything was okay up until the point when they said we need to get into groups.
Yes.
Into groups.
That is true.
Activity. And I was like, yes. So I turned to look for, and I'm like, I saw this look, and I was like, okay, we didn't really know each other as well as we know each other now. Exactly. So it was so interesting because within 4 to 5 minutes, Andretta disappeared.
I disappeared.
Gone.
I went from sitting at a table to standing up on a wall to standing by the stairs to standing at the door to walking to my room. And I didn't realize that was visible to everybody.
Yes.
I didn't realize that people saw it. And Heather described it to me later. She said, we saw you go from the table to the wall to the stairs to the door. And next thing we know, you were gone. Out. And I was, because I just could not imagine staying in that room for one more moment. And it wasn't that I disliked anybody or that I didn't want to. It was too much. I have been in that group all day. We've been traveling together all day. And I just thought, no groups. I can't do the group. I'm going to my room right now. And so, but it was a feeling. It was just like, I just need to be by myself. And once I got out of that room, it was like, whew. Yeah. And I got in the room and I closed the door and I just felt so at peace and and that's how I know, that's some of my evidence that I know I'm introverted, because at a certain point, I must turn down the energy level and be alone. I always typically disappear from gatherings that are trips. Like when people take trips off, I'm going to end up somewhere by myself. And so, yeah, that was definitely one of the times when my introversion certainly showed up on the scene very strongly, but it does oftentimes. Yeah.
It did. So yeah, so that was, that was an interesting time. But we I think another misnomer for extroverts is that we have to have a lot of people around us.
Yeah.
And because we have a lot of people around us, the misnomer is that everybody kind of knows about your business, or everybody, you're sharing with the whole world.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not true.
Right.
I have a very small group, and it's tiny, as my mama used to say, of people who I confide in, I talk to, who know the most innermost workings of Heather. And I think sometimes people make the assumption that because you are an extrovert, that you've told the whole world all the information about you and things of that nature. And it's not because I don't want to, or because I have something against these people. I don't. It's just that I keep my closest friends very, very close, and I can just be in the midst of other people.
Right. I agree with you on that. And it's funny because I really feel I feel that way. The same. I think I'm the same in that way. I'm not an extrovert, but I'm definitely the same person that I tend to, excuse me, I tend to keep a small circle of people, but once I trust that small circle of people, I'm pretty open. I'm an open book generally. And just about anybody who knows me can come up to me and ask me something, and I'm going to be as truthful as, I don't mind. I really don't mind. Just sharing my heart, sharing my mind, my thoughts. I like to connect and talk. A lot of times now, strange enough, as an introvert, I still have times where I want to talk and connect. I don't need a crowd to do that, but I still want to. I have days when I'm like, I want to, there's laughing because I'll say, I want to have a deep conversation with people.
Yes.
I need an intimate talk or a chat or a conversation. And this happens to me late at night because I kind of come alive like late in the night. And I just like connecting and chatting and sharing of the heart and things like that. So, introverts do like that as well. We enjoy talking, and just because a person is an extrovert, like you said, that doesn't mean they want to share in that way, so I definitely feel that and kind of concur with that. I think another misconception that I've gone through as an introvert is as a leader, people do not think you can be introverted and be a leader. I am a very strong leader and have been for a long time. But when people see me doing what I do, I can sing. I could sing in front of a room of 1 million people and it would not faze me. That doesn't bother me, but walking into a room of 10 does.
Yeah.
People don't believe me when I say, oh my God, I am kind of shy. I'm kind of quiet. I'm to myself. They don't believe you. They just don't believe you. They think there's no way, especially because I don't appear shy on stage. I don't appear, quiet or inward. I'm definitely demonstrative and, but I go through it. As far as small rooms at the retreats, I remember I didn't want to say anything. And somebody says, why? Hello, Cappuccino.
Hey.
And so people just don't believe that you can be what some people call an entertainer, or a person who is on a stage or is visible or is a leader and be introverted. And they look at me strange when look, somebody says not shy around me from day one. I don't know why not. Well, listen, let me tell you something, Cappuccino Extrovert, because I can vote on you right now. I know that you're an extrovert, and there's not many people who are going to be shy around her because some people have that personalities that they bring the shy people out of their bag, and you really can't be shy around them. And so Phyllis is one of those people.
She is.
Has that drawing personality that kind of draws you in and makes you talk and laugh and do all of those things. But otherwise, no, ma'am. But people don't believe that. People don't believe that you can be, shy or quiet or inward and be what some people call an entertainer or a person on stage or a leader. So yeah, I've had that happen to me many times. They just don't believe it. So
yeah, and I think the another misnomer for extroverts is that so we can be out there and we can talk and we can do all of those things. But like for me, I'm an ambivert and I can do that, but I also like my own time, which is like an inward time.
Right.
If now that I know what this is, if I'm not careful, my quietness can appear that something is wrong with me.
Hallelujah.
You know what? So I have been accused. I don't know how many times.
Accused.
I don't even know. I've lost count. I've been told that because I get quiet sometimes, that it appears that like either it's the world is coming to an end or something is happening. When in all actuality, I'm just kind of quiet, or I'm inward. I'm inward.
Right. Yeah. That's right. And I was accusing. Because now that I've gotten to know Heather a lot more, that personality, that would ambivert, is this the new thing we have to not learn? I'm telling you, this is educational, honey. We're teaching y'all.
Yes, we're teaching y'all.
But Savannah said, yes, you have. And I don't know what that was. But
I think that's what she's talking about.
Yes, you have been accused. Yes, you have. So I would be so used to a different personality and that extroversion and that energy and that outward thing that when I came across this little quiet part, I'll be like, what's wrong? And so this is getting into how introversion, extroversion kind of affects relationships.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, and how, whether you're introverted or extroverted, and the effect that it has on whether it's your spouse, your children, your friends, people at work.
Yep.
All of that can be affected by the demonstration you have of, that introversion or extroversion. Because when Heather started first revealing that side of herself, I didn't understand where it was coming from. And Jenny said, so true extroverts definitely have a pressure to always be on, so to speak.
Yep.
Exactly, Jenny. That is valuable, Jenny. That is so true. That's what I was expecting of Heather. And so when I didn't get the on, I was like, what's the off about? Why are we off? And I felt like something was off. And I kept saying, well, what is wrong? You're just quiet. She was like, nothing is wrong. I'm just quiet. And I'm thinking, well, something's wrong. I'm used to, and I'm thinking, I'm used to a different side of yourself. So that definitely showed up in our relationship many times. To the point I'm just like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I mean, something's wrong with you. And you just should tell me what's wrong with you. Just tell me what's wrong. You're just quiet and you got in the car and you didn't, you know, but she had those days where she just didn't have a lot to say, just quiet, just in her home, relaxing. And I can tell when Heather, now that I know her better, I can tell when she's getting in that mode of, I need my quiet time, I need to chillax, I need to go get my popcorn from the popcorn factory stop or whatever it is. You know, she hadn't changed clothes. She is like, I'm chilling today. There is no getting up, putting on makeup this day. We're going to stay in the house. We're going to relax. And so I understood that I had to relieve, as Jenny put it, that pressure to be on, because I didn't understand this fluctuation of personality, but it really wasn't. It was saying, hey, as a person who kind of is fluid between this place, that I do have times when I'm just quiet. And she had to explain that to me. So
yeah. So I think that's a big misnomer. Or misunderstanding as well. So I think in friendships, like you were saying, and in relationships, it's really important to know where people kind of fall, so that you don't make the mistake of assuming, which can lead to some other issues. So in our relationship, in our friendship, and it, you know, if you all have been following us, you know how this all started. Ain't going back there, but y'all know how this started. So we have been friends for a while. We can't even remember the number, how long it's been, but because we have learned to and grown in our friendship, there's certain things that I know that could affect her, that my extrovertedness would be a negative thing that could happen for her. And the same thing for Andretta. So I think when you're in friendships and you're in relationships that you care about, it's important to know where people fall. Where they fall in that. So the key to this, and I think everybody should first know if you're introvert or you're extrovert. It's kind of important to know those two. And then, you know, I read those 4 and those 3 descriptions. It's good to know now that I know that, you know, there's some levels here. And I think anybody can fluctuate in and out of those. So no one is stuck in a certain level. But how it has affected our friendship, I can remember specifically one time, for my job, we went to a gala. We had a beautiful event out by the airport, and I invited Andretta to come with me. And I think the anxious introvert showed up probably about a week and a half before the event.
Oh wait, that's true.
It did.
It did.
It did. Now that I'm reading this, it was the dress. I don't have a dress. We don't have to have a dress. I don't have to go. We ain't got to go. I don't have to. I'm like, okay, it's okay. So we got through that. We got dressed. We went, and this was it was in a big building, Delta flight. There was all these planes. Really nice event. And my coworkers were there, but I know my friend, she doesn't like big spaces. She just told you that she doesn't like a lot of people. So there were a lot of people at this event.
It was.
So I knew that we would be sitting at a table. I knew that I would be at least 50% of the time, I would know half of the people who were at this table. So I wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay. So we got there, we sat down, I chatted with a few people, and then I got up because I wanted to go see some of my coworkers. I left Andretta at the table with 8 other strangers.
Strangers. She left me with strangers.
I left her with strangers, and I told her, I said, I'll be back. I said, I tried to reassure her. I said, I will be back. And I left, and I stayed away. You know, it wasn't long. I didn't think it was long.
How long was it, Heather? How long was it?
it was about 30 minutes. And for her, it probably felt like an hour or two or five. And I realized at some point that, Heather, you need to go back because you need to go check on your friend who doesn't do well in this environment.
Yes, you do. That was the Holy Spirit. That was the Holy Spirit talking to you from on high. He was like, Heather, you need to go check on your friend. Amen. Yes, he did. He told you that.
He told me that.
He told you.
I came back and she was still in one piece, and and everything was okay. But I had to make sure that I did that.
Yeah. So, I want to interject though. When she said she was going to get up, I was aware that this Heather was among her coworkers. And, I was already, like she said, anxious. Okay. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to go in this environment. I only know her. She knows everybody. She's been at this company forever. So we go in, we sit down. I'm at a table. She says, okay, so I'm going to get up and speak to this one, that one. I'm like, and as soon as she said that, I was like, okay. Because I realized she is a people person. So this is me kind of saying, okay, she's a people person, the extrovert in our friendship. So she gets up, and I think that's why I told her it must have been the Holy Spirit that told her to come on back to the table, because I said she got 3 more minutes. I said she has 3 more minutes before I'm very upset. She has 3 more minutes to come back to this table, or I am very upset. Very. And I did not have to get upset. She came. It was as if when I made that announcement, it traveled through the atmosphere and hit her ears, because she came right back to the table and she was like, are you okay? I was like, yes, I'm fine. And I was fine. I sat at that table and did not say a word to anybody at the table. Yeah. And that is a demonstration of kind of my introversion. Heather, had that situation been reversed, she would have already been talking to everybody at the table.
Yes.
She would have been calling them by name.
Yes.
She would have been, knowing their family history, where everybody went to school. They would have known, she would have made some comment about, girl, I hope everything work out for you with your new job. And this is how she is all the time. I remember a situation where I was working somewhere. And I was in HR at that time, still am. And in this particular place, people were, and I was in HR. Okay. Yes. And Heather asked me one day, she said, oh, who is that person? I said, I don't know her name. And she looked at me, she said, you don't know her? She said, well, what about that person? And I said, I don't know. And she looked at me, she said, I may not feel some kind of way about this, but these people are wearing badges. They have their names on their chest, Andretta. You still don't know anybody's name? And I said, no. But it kind of woke me up to, like, you are so within your own world that you can't even see these people's badges. You don't know their names as well as you should. So I did make an effort. I've grown.
She has grown.
She said, these people are wearing badges, Andretta. Like, and shouldn't you know these people? I should not. But until she said it, I didn't even have the awareness that I was so cut off that I didn't see anybody. Yeah. I'm cordial. Hello, good morning. But that's it. And so I learned that from her, to be a little more open and pay attention to the people who are around you. It's not that I didn't want to, I just didn't. It wasn't, it wasn't purposeful. I just was in my own space.
Exactly. Yeah. So I know that, and yes, Andretta has definitely grown. She's grown, leaps and bounds. Hallelujah. She has grown leaps and bounds. And I think that's a good thing about our relationship, because we balance each other in some ways. And that balance is a way of helping both of us in relationships and in interacting with other people.
Right.
those are good things. I can honestly say that there has not been any negative impact on
Right.
our friendship because she's an introvert and I'm an extrovert.
Right. Absolutely.
There hasn't. I know the first one of the first times that we experienced this together was at the mall.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
re-
we were at the mall. So I do like the mall.
yes, she does.
I'm I'm a Molly. I like the mall. I'm a Molly. And we went to a very big mall here in Atlanta, the Lenox Square Mall, and it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, a lot of movement, a lot going on. And I think we stayed for how long?
10, 15, 20 minutes, 15,
Maybe 20.
20.
Maybe.
You have to understand where we live in proximity to this mall.
We are at least an hour.
Yeah.
At least an hour, about an hour from this mall. So
we
we went in and we're walking, and you know how you can tell something doesn't feel right on your left side. I was like, what's going on? And I could tell on her face. I saw her expression. I said, okay, something's not right. Something doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that I couldn't stay in the mall. The crowd, it was extra. I don't know if extra packed is the appropriate terminology, but it was packed in that mall that day. And I can remember feeling like I could hear every conversation. I said, Heather, do you hear all of this? She was just like, no. I said, I can't stay here. Like, I can't. And I will say to you, this anxious introvert thing, I have had challenges with anxiety. And I don't know if that is fueled by the introversion, or the introversion has fueled that. So, and I will probably sometime on this show talk about that. Another show that we have about anxiety, something that, I really have grown a lot in. But that day at the mall, too many people yelling and talking and moving and hitting each other on the shoulder and dodging. I said, the mall thing is not for me. Too many people. And Heather was so gracious. And this is what's important in your relationships, is to be gracious and to have mercy on people when you see that, for whatever reason. It could be introversion, it could be extroversion, it could be anxiety, it could be stress, it could be, what they call sensory issues. It could be whatever that person is challenged with, is having the grace to know when to release them from the obligation. Because there are times when introverts just don't want to go out. And it's sometimes we've had so much stimulation in other ways that one more going out, one more outing, one more occasion is not something that we can do. And so I'll say, from the perspective of having a friend who has been gracious to me, she just said, okay, let's go. She never said any more about it. She said, no, let's go. She was like, honey, let's go. If this is not for you, let's leave right now. And I don't think I've been back to Lenox since.
You have not.
I didn't think so.
You have not. But you have been to the Mall of Georgia.
I've been to the Mall of Georgia
5-6 times.
I have.
You've been perfectly fine.
It was perfectly fine. I needed time to adjust to that, because I hadn't been to the mall in a very long time. The mall is just not my scene because of all the people. But, and this is something that I'll say, and I don't know why I'm feeling like this to say this, even for people who have families, and you have mothers, and you have, wives and husbands, and children, to the families, be mindful. A lot of times we don't see our spouse, our children, as having those humanities that they need time. They need time to decompress. They need time to get away. They need time to be quiet, whether they're introverted or extroverted. Even learning today that you can be an extrovert and still need time to back up, to decompress, to spend some time alone, to get to the place where you can just shut something off and be alone with your own thoughts. And a lot of times I notice, and I don't want to just isolate mothers, but I will for this conversation, mothers sometimes need that time. That's why they go shopping to the store. You know, when I had children and my children were small, I would try to go to Walmart at like 10 o'clock at night because it was just quiet and I
Yeah.
wanted some quiet and I needed quiet. And you have mothers who do that, who will go out and just sit in their car. And, you know, that's not a bad thing. Allow your husband, your wife, your children, even. A lot of times we don't realize that our children, they have those propensities to be, you know, introverted or extroverted, and giving them the time that they need, you know, from school, stress at school, family activities, whatever those things might be, and allowing them the time to shut everything down and say, I just need some alone time. And that's fair. I think that's fair for him. I just wanted to share that because
I think you're right. I can remember my mom. My mother was a teacher.
Yeah.
So she would teach. She would get us ready for school, or you know, and then go to school, be with kids all day, and then when she came home, she made it a purpose. She would tell us, "Don't bother me.
Right.
I'm going in my room." She would
Right.
close the door for an hour, and we knew that we needed to don't bother her. And she
Right.
wasn't being mean. She wasn't, you know, it wasn't any of that, but she needed time to decompress because
Right.
at some point, you know, all that energy and all of that exposure to people and things, it started to get, you know, become a little bit too much. So I think she did that so that she could be a good decent mom to me and my brother, and
Absolutely.
not be an explosive mom to me and my
Exactly.
brother, because she had, you know, had so much energy and people and stuff coming in her direction every day. So I agree with
Absolutely.
you. It's always good to pay attention to that
Absolutely.
when it comes
Absolutely.
to people. So
Absolutely.
that is a good thing. So what did Ruth say?
You know what? I'm unable to press that button. There's some kind of a thing that's happening
Okay.
to my
It
computer.
says, I think she said, I get that. She said, I realize that my children need a day off from school. I
Yeah.
allow that even if they are not sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
I'm the same.
yeah, they're sometimes it's overload.
Yeah.
And then for kids who can't express it, then behavior starts to come out. And it's really not the behavior that started that. It was that, you know, they had too much. It was just a little bit too much for them. So
Right. Do you see any other comments there, Heather? Because I'm
no.
unable.
Oh yes, I saw Savannah said, you trying to say something? She put a smiley face there.
When I said I want to go to the store late at night, absolutely.
Yes.
No, and here's the thing, and that's a good point. You know what she said, and I know she put a smiley face, but I'll say it to this place. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. It's not personal when your friend says, I don't want to talk today. Okay. Let's hook up later, or, you know, or don't feel that they're being unfriendly to you or being mean to you or rejecting you in any way. Sometimes people just need time.
That's true.
And Heather, I bug her with this, and I think I do it because I know. I said, I'm not gonna. What I say, I'm not gonna disturb you. I'm gonna give you a break from me.
Give you a break from me. I'm like,
Break from me today.
break.
She'll say, what happened to you? Why? You know, I said, I was giving you a break from me today because we talk so much, and I just don't want to make sure we're overloading one another. And so I'll say, hey, I'm giving you a break from me today. She's like, I don't need a break from you. I'm like, I'm just giving you a break just in case. You know, I think, and I'm doing that because of my own perspective of sometimes people, you know, need a break, and that's okay. That's not a problem, or shouldn't be deemed as a problem. And I think the more we're able to extend grace for where people are, you know, the better. I think the better, because friendships and relationships can be so much better when we allow people to be who they are and grow in the places where they may, you know. And sometimes it's not a matter of growth, it's just who they are, and needing to just have that time alone. Or, you know, Heather may need the crowd and say, hey, I just really want to go to the mall. I really want the energy. I really want to, you know, do X, Y, and so, because that's who I am and I feel the energy. I want to draw from the energy today. And so I think that's okay.
Yeah, it is. And I think with our friendship, like I said before, it's a good balance, and
Right.
we can be in environments together. And they could be bigger environments. And I'm sensitive enough to know how to be in that space with her.
Right.
And I think that's key.
Yeah, it is. It's key. And I think too, introverts and extroverts sometimes can make really great friends, because I know with Heather and people have talking about Linus and having a security blanket. I mean, and I hate to call her that, but a lot of times I go more places. I go more places with a little less anxiety. And, over the years, I've done the same thing with my husband, because he has a big personality. It's easier for me to enter a room with him, and it's easier for me to enter a room with her because I have a little bit of a shield of that personality that's going to break it up for me just a little bit. You know what I mean? Rather than me having to absorb all of that energy by myself. Now I have someone who can kind of help me carry it, because that may just be, a little much for me as an introvert. So I've done even, I realized that I married very young, I say very young, with 21, 22. And my husband's personality has always been huge. And so when he walks in a room, everybody knows who he is. He's talking to everybody, and everybody is aware of his presence. And that kind of kept me from having to, take on the full brunt of entering a room, being there to have small talk, which I don't like small talk. Jesus.
She can't stand it.
Oh, Lord, I might pass out, but I've gotten better. Okay. Just let me say, I have gotten so much better. And for those of you who are listening and I seem awkward, just know it's not personal. I'm just awkward. Right. I love you, and I want to talk to you, but if you're going to need to talk to me for a minute before the ice is broken. I remember one particular place, and that's why this kind of spectrum thing is really, you stumbled upon something wonderful with that, Heather, because this kind of anxious introvert thing. I remember the first time when I was early on attending our church, a woman walked up to me. I won't say her name. And she was being as kind and as loving and as friendly as anybody could be. She walked up to me and she says, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm good at that part. "Hi, how are you?" "Good." She said, "So I've seen you here before." I was like, "Yes, I'm visiting." She's like, "Okay, so I see you have a family." And this is what people like me do. I can't speak for all introverts, but as I'm talking, I'm thinking. And I was just like, "Lord, please let this end." Okay. I just want it to end. I want it to end, please. So how old are your children? And so at this point, sweat is pouring down my face. And that also is causing me anxiety, because I'm thinking she's looking at this thinking, what's wrong with this woman? So that's a whole nother story. That's the anxiety thing too, which I will speak about. I will definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
But definitely, like, absorbing, had I had somebody else there to kind of help me carry that, it wouldn't have felt as strained. So yeah, it can be a beautiful relationship and togetherness with an introvert and extrovert if you know how to handle one another.
Yeah, I can't hate. Ruth said that she hates small talk, and it's in all caps. So clearly,
extroverts hate it too.
She feels like you do. Yeah, she feels like you do.
I don't know what to say or something. Like, I want to talk to people, and I've talked to Heather, and Heather, it is so funny because Heather is I'm going to tell you, if you need a class in how to interact, was that a Deb thing? Was that a debutante thing?
It might have been. It might have been. No, I'm just kidding. It was
a boarding school thing. If you all know what this is about. If that's a debutante and a boarding school grace that you've developed, I need to sign up immediately, because Heather is the master. I've watched her. She knows how to interact with people so smoothly and kindly. And it's just genuinely who she is, or whatever. But if you need a class, she can teach you, because I've learned quite a bit from her. And I don't know what to say. At some point, I'm looking at you and you're going to be looking at me. So you better come with something to say.
Come with something.
You you better, and I'll come to her and I'll say, Heather, I said, I just didn't know what to say. You know, I did that recently. I said, I think she was like, okay, you handled that differently than I would have. Well, how didn't I handle that? She'll say, well, did you ask this? That probably would have been I didn't think of that. I didn't think of saying that because I can't think that fast.
Yeah. Jenny said that she takes out her mom and she'll talk to anybody.
See,
yeah, and I believe that. Jenny and I are co-workers, and she will. I've seen her talk to. We kind of do that. We just talk to anybody. There's really no stranger.
Right. Yeah.
There's no stranger. So I think all in all, with introverts and extroverts in general, we all need to look at the differences and look at some of the similarities also, and just respect both sides.
Right.
And then when you're in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or it's your children or if it's your spouse, knowing that people will fluctuate, can fluctuate between these two, or if someone is truly a hard left introvert and a hard right extrovert, you have to respect that.
Right.
You have to respect that, because if you care about someone, if you really care about someone, then you will get to know what that looks like for them, and you will learn the balance. And I think that's been the beauty of our friendship.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something that we consciously. That wasn't a conscious move.
Right.
It just it evolved that way. Savannah said, I obviously, in caps, didn't get my social side from you, Mom.
Right. That's true. My oldest son did. My oldest son, I think, more resembles my social side. So I think, yes, she got her and her brother got their father's graces. But myself and Aaron, we can do it. It just takes some doing. You know. Yeah. But I was going to add to what you were saying about this and about the respecting, and on the another side of that is don't be afraid to tell people who you are. Don't be afraid to speak to those who you love and who love you, and tell them who you are and what you need. That day in the mall, whenever I felt just a bit of anxiousness because the crowd, the energy was just getting overwhelming, or I just couldn't do an event, I just want to stay home, whatever that is, I wasn't afraid to say it. And I had to say and share, what was happening with me. And I had to know myself and know myself well enough to express my needs. And it's okay to express your needs, to express to the people who you love and who love you that you need that time. If you are an extrovert, or if you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert and you say, hey, I just need to hang out with friends, I need to do things, because that's what makes me feel, settled and happy and where I need to be, then don't be afraid to be transparent and let people know. Don't assume that people will know. Heather is intuitive. And because of that, and she cares about me as a person, she was able to tap into a lot of the shifts in my behavior, moving toward the door and standing in a corner, things like that. But, don't be afraid to just say to people, hey, this is who I am, or this is a part of my personality. Please don't take it personally, and allow them to level up to where you are and where you need to be. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's my ending point there.
Exactly. So I know we asked this question earlier. You all now know who is who, but a lot of people do make the assumption that, especially if you've been watching this pivot poll for the last 3 weeks, people would assume that Andretta was probably the extrovert. And I am the introvert, but it's the opposite. But we fall in both sides of this, and that's the key to this topic, is that you can fall within a spectrum, which is what we learned tonight. So make sure that you know, go home, and if you're at home, talk to your spouse or talk to your friends and talk to your family and find out, you know, who's the introvert and who's the extrovert and what they need. That's the most important part of this this talk tonight, is what they need. And I bet you'll see some interesting outcomes from your relationships.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining the Pivot Poll tonight. We look forward to interacting with you again next Friday at 9 p.m.
Yes.
Follow us, like, share, invite your friends. We're open to hear, even if you have suggestions for shows and broadcasts that you want to see us tackle, subject matters. Inbox us, send us your thoughts, your perspectives. We would love to hear from you all. And thank you so much again for joining us as always.
Yes, thank you, Ruth. She said she enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.